Okay, boys and girls, Mike Kelly again. You're probably tired of me by now from animatorsforum.com. I want to explain a little bit on how to use the NoLimits designer. I won't go into everything because it would be too long a video, but I do know that some of you have downloaded the files, and I also recognize that they're fairly complicated. So I want to at least go over how they're set up and how you can set up your own files, because the files as the sample file as provided isn't really designed. This NoLimits designer female sample isn't really designed to be used. It's only designed as to give you some ideas on how you could create your own characters. It's not very good. Face isn't very good, and the hands are crap, and so I basically just put it together so that you could see how it works. So first of all, if you look at the layers, this is all about control and your control over how layers get randomly selected. So you'll see here I have three groups. Actually, I have three groups and one switch layer here in the what we call the main layers, topmost layers. First of all, let's talk about colors first. It's hidden right now. So if I bring up colors, you'll see I have some comments. Comments are ignored, and then I have these color layers. And so if we pull back a little bit, you'll see that here are the different color layers. So if I turn them all off, you'll see. So if I go here, there's dress colors. There's dress colors, and there's comments I put in the comments myself. You don't have to, but I put in the comments just to keep things straight. As to what colors are what. And what this means is these are just shapes in this layer. If the layer has the word colors in it, anywhere in it, it doesn't have to be the second word, but it has to be somewhere in there. And remember, folks, that the name of the layer is considered to be the very first word followed by a space. So no matter what else that layer says, the name is the very first word. So you got to be careful about names, but we don't want to conflict with, particularly in switch layers, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But so this layer is dress color. So what happens is that the word dress gets assigned to colors. And if you come down to this drop-down box, this is a list of all the colors that are in a file. If I create another layer and call it, I don't know, I guess I can do that now if you want. I'll create a new layer and we'll just call it, it has to be a vector layer, and I'll call it test colors. Now, there aren't any shapes in it right now, so it actually won't work as a good color layer. But if I come up to here, it didn't get refreshed either, so I have to, let's go out and then let's come back in again here to this. I got to put something in here. I just found out an error in there. I do have to have some shape in there, so otherwise I get an error. All right, so let's create a shape here. I'll create a shape real quick. That, okay, good. All right, now let's try this again. All right, so if I get into here, and so now the test layer, the test colors has now been assigned to a shape, and I just realized I got a shape if I got an error if I don't have a shape in there. So you have to have a shape somewhere in your color layer. So what does that mean exactly? What does the color layer mean? It means that all the shapes that are in that color, or that are in that layer, control the colors that are picked among for that word dress. So, and we'll see how you can assign those colors to specific layers and items in a second. But so that's how you set up all your colors. And so I've got different colors here. The more shapes you have, the more colors you'll have. If you only want 2 or 3 colors, you can put 2 or 3. If you only want one color, you can put one shape in there, and that'll control that color. But they'll be picked on as random. And if, let's say, you have a layer like dress, but you want mostly red, so you could put more than one. So I've got more than one red color here. That means that the likelihood will be that that red will be more picked more often than the other colors. And over here, I have a different set of colors, and these colors are colors that I might not want to be altered by the color schemes. I'm going to tell you that later. But if you don't want a color to be altered by any of the color scheme process, you can put an asterisk in front of it. So if you look down here, you'll see skin. There's a little asterisk, a little star in front of skin. And what that means is whatever we do with the color schemes, as you'll see in a little bit, these colors will not be altered, which is good because you generally don't want people with skin that's blue or green or yellow. I mean, you might. If you do, then you can leave off the asterisk. And the same goes for the lip colors and the hair colors. Now you can change these if you want. If you take off the asterisk, then the hair colors and the lip colors will also change. That might also be used for things like belts or possibly shoes. If there's some particular color you don't want to get altered, you could freeze it that way. And if you don't have colors assigned, then the shapes or whatever you have colored will stay that color. Also, styles will override this, just like with anything. I don't know if you've ever noticed in Anime Studio, but styles always control, so it doesn't matter what color you've assigned to that shape. If you have a style, it overrides that color, and that's true here in Color Designer too. Okay, all right, shape. NoLimits Designer. I'm getting so many of my programs confused. It's early yet. All right, so that's the color layer, so we'll turn that off. We don't need that to show up. Now, the other groups, the two groups I have here are head and body. You can create groups if you want. You don't have to. But if you create groups, you can have your switches in those groups. And it's an easy way of organizing which switches are going to show up. So in this particular case, I have a head group and a body group. And that way it consolidates things. And I don't have to see a lot of mess on the screen while I'm working with this. And then I have a switch that's outside of both of those groups. Any switches that are at the root layer get operated on just the way any other switch would, and switches in the groups also get operated on. You can't embed much further down than that, so don't try. You might be able to, but I can't guarantee it'll work. All right, so let's go into the head group. So here we'll go through all the different switches. A switch that has no other keys, so you see all of these are switches here. See, every single one of these is switches. And that's what you want to do inside your layers, is put switches that control how different things are done. Every single one of these are switches. The switches that have no other keywords to them, so this mouse and this visions, these two switches will automatically be chosen from among one of the samples that's inside here. So so there'll always be a vision or a mouth switch chosen, and one of these items will be chosen from that. The faces and the noses that have this word skin following it, and the head hair that has the word hair, and ears as well as skin, these will always be chosen, but the word following it is a color. Remember, we looked back at those colors, and they had there were skin colors, and there's lips color, hair colors, and those things. When a color keyword is put in on the layer, then what that means is that all the switches will be colored with that particular color. So in this particular case, all the objects in nose will receive a skin color attached to them. Once again, the only way you can avoid that is to have a style that will prevent that skin from coming down there. So faces will always have skin attached to and that's why when you do this, you notice the skin changes on everything all at once. The face and the body and the nose. The ears color changes, all that color changes automatically because it picks from a color among skin. And the same thing for hair. It picks the hair color from among those hair colors. So that's how that works. Now you might notice there's a star or an asterisk in some of these layers. This means that these layers, earrings and eyewear, will be chosen randomly the percentage of time following that asterisk. So multiplied by 10, unfortunately. I know it's a little complicated, but this means star 3 means 30% of the time it'll get earrings. 30% of the time it'll get eyewear. So that's why you notice that as I go through this, there's eyewear selected. So now if we zoom in, you can see that there were glasses selected. This switch became active 30% of the time. Earrings are only 30% of the time, so you don't see those all the time. Eyewear is not selected because we're on there, but so you can see that eyewear. So you can control the percentage. If you want it selected a lot, you can put star 9, then 90% of the time, or very little, star 1, or anything in between. If you leave off the star, the asterisk, then it will always get selected. Okay, but not always appear. And let me see if I can find an example of that. Watch the ears in particular here. Let's see if we can find one. There we go. Now notice ears is always going to get selected. It did get selected, but it doesn't show up. Why is that? Well, that's because we can also minus out a switch. And in this particular case, if we go down to head hair, you'll see that when it got selected, when this particular child got selected, we subtracted the ears out. Minus ears, we also subtracted earrings just in case they got selected. So you can put a minus and then the name of the particular switch layer following it to subtract out any layer that you don't want to have appear. In this particular case, I don't want it, for this particular hairstyle where it goes over the ear, I don't want the ear then, which is above the hairstyle, to show up. So I minus out the ear and the earrings, okay? The other word you might see is you can plus a layer in. In this particular case, it says plus behind. And remember, layers are only the first word in the layer, so this behind is referring to this layer here, behind. And the behind hair, the hair is the hair color, so it means it's going to be the hair. Yes, I hear you, Stella. And then the word match means that this layer will never be called unless another layer calls it. That matches up with that layer, okay? Plus behind means call this behind layer. And what it does, what it tries to do is it tries to find a match based on the layer name. So in this particular case, it says, call the behind switch layer and see if you can find a layer in that layer called hair 17. So if I go to behind switch layer, you'll notice hair 17. That matches up because that hairstyle matches up to that. Now, if you call behind switch layer and there isn't a match, it will then randomly assign one of these to it. And that's useful too. And I'll show you sometimes when that may be useful. But if you do call it with a match, it will try to match up the layer that you matched up with. Okay. So there's that. So that's how that works. So I think that's really all there is to the head layer, is that it matches up to that. But let me show you one other thing. Yes, I hear you, Stella. Stella's not really happy. In this particular case in vision, we have the choice of vision. It's going to choose one of these eyes. So in the eyes layer themselves, there are other switches, okay? Because eyes have, they have different eyes open, blink, and stuff. Well, a switch within a switch, I got to be careful, because if I have other switches, then this will also get one of these chosen, and only one, and everything else will be, zeroed out. So I don't want it. I don't want the NoLimits designer to go back any further than this switch, so I put the word minus random on here. And that basically stops the selection right at that layer. If I put minus random up in vision, it would stop it up there. However, wherever it is at that level, it won't go any further, and then it won't randomize anything further. So that means that the eyes will not get random, and anything won't get chosen beyond that. So that's the way you can control it burrowing down any further than that. So anyway, that's head. So hopefully that explains the basics. Now, let's go into the body, because now it gets a little more complicated. So if you didn't understand what I just went through here, listen to the video again. Stop it now, go back, go through this very slowly and work through the file and see what I said and see if you can understand it, because we're going to get a little more complicated at this point in time. We're going to use the same mechanisms we just went through. There's no more additional mechanisms, but the way you can choose and switch and control things gets a little more complicated. So here we go. In the body layer, a lot more complicated in the body. I have a lot of layers going on. So let's examine what goes on with each of these layers. The first layer I have, and I'm not going to, I could go through them top down, but in reality, what I'd like to do is start at core layers. So I have a core torso layer, okay? There's only one choice here, and that's significant. If you want to always have one particular thing chosen, you might think, well, I could just put a vector layer in here. That's not a reliable way to do that. What you should do is put a switch and only put one vector layer inside that switch. That will control that. That way you'll always have that torso chosen. Vector layers will normally be ignored otherwise and blanked out. So you can't use just put a vector layer inside of a matching switch layer like that. So that's my base layer there. That's the base torso there. Then I have what's known as shirts is my other significant base. And shirts layer, again, is a layer that's always chosen, always, because it has no other switches there. But you'll notice it doesn't show up. It's always chosen, but not always visible. And that's because other layers are controlling what gets removed from it. But if a shirt gets chosen, and let's actually go to one where you can see it. Okay, here's a shirt chosen. When this shirt gets chosen, you'll notice then it has an additional layer. It says, give me this is downstage, and that B stands for bear. This is just my naming convention. You can call it anything you want, but I want to show you my process, how I'm doing this. When this shirt gets chosen, I want to have the bear arms for this character get chosen. So I say, give me the downstage bear arm, okay? And so if I go up to where the downstage bear arm is, you notice that that's a match layer, so it's not otherwise going to be chosen unless I ask for it. Matter of fact, all the arm layers that are downstage are not going to be chosen unless they're called. Okay? So you want to hold them out, and that's a good rule of thumb. If you don't want a layer to show up unless you call it, just put the word match in it. Always put the word match in, and that keeps it from being called accidentally. So it says, give me the downstage bear arm. And the downstage bear arm, I have, give me the upstage bear arm, so that matches with that. And then it'll go to that. So that's pretty simple process to follow forward. If it's not a bear arm, like in this particular case, let's see if I can get one to show up here where it's a different arm. I got to be careful because some of the other layers control shirts to whether shirts show up or not. I'm not having a shirt show up here, and a bear arm. That's the problem with this random thing, is you just never know what kind of shirts are going to show up. Why? Bikini showed up. Just go a million times. Problem with this particular file is I have dress control this thing a lot, so a lot of the other shirts aren't showing up. Actually, you know what? I can fix that by changing the weighting of this. Where are we? I'll change it into outfit. The problem is the outfit controls what shows up and what doesn't show up. So skirts. Let's see. Pants and skirts though should have that. Huh. It's interesting. Let me just keep going on here. Pants. Now, I might have to look at this file. Oh, there we go. That should have worked. Oh, I'm right. I'm sorry. Top stick. My own file is so complicated it's confusing me. That's right. I have these shirts. Okay, this is a good file. This is a good one to look at. I have a shirt show up. Okay, this actually chose a shirt here. This chose the shirt scoop shirt. And you notice if the scoop shirt gets chosen, then it adds the top shirt automatically. And then it adds the bare arm. And the top shirt automatically removes the shirts. You might say, what the hell? What are you doing there? Well, the reason I'm doing that is in my file, I have a lot more shirts where I don't have top shirts. And the top shirts basically are shirts that would go on top of the pants. I have shirts that are smaller, so I want them to go underneath the pants. So they're either on top or underneath the pants, and so this controls that. If this particular shirt is chosen, it hits the top shirt and then makes it go over the pants and removes this shirt. So that shows you a way that you can choose another shirt that matches perfectly and remove this shirt that's in there. So that's what's going on in that particular complication. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Yes, my cat is really being a pain right now. I'm not paying any attention to her. So hopefully that understands the logic behind that. Now, you don't have to make yours nearly as complicated. If all your shirts go over the pants or under the pants, then you can just, eliminate this. But this is kind of tricky. This says, give me this shirt that matches, the scoop shirt, and then subtract out the calling layer that called it. So I'm going to call this top shirt, and then I'm going to subtract out shirt. So that's kind of a way that you can do that. So it shows you can do almost anything with this. Let me show you the outfit. So the outfit is an interesting one because this is a switch within a switch. Here's your top layer switch. So one of these outfits is always going to be chosen. Remember, it always gets chosen, and it always does. So it's either going to choose a switch inside of this, either pants, okay, skirts, or dresses. Put my cat up on my lap here. See if I can get her to ignore me not petting her while I'm doing this. So it's going to choose either pants, skirts, or dresses. So as we go through this, you'll see as it chooses, see there's dresses, there's pants, there's dresses, skirts. But within those layers, these are switch layers, it also chooses a switch. So in pants, for example, well, I only have one switch because I didn't give you all the stuff that's in my file, but you can have more than one pants in here. I think in skirts I have more than one skirt. So in skirts, it's going to choose one of the layers inside of this. So in this particular case, it chooses the bikini, which a very inappropriate dress code for work. Although I kind of like the tennis shoes in the bikini. It's I don't know. Maybe exposing too much about myself. The same thing is true if we get to a dress. Okay, cat. The cat obviously is not going to let me, and I need my mouse hand. The cat doesn't let me play with my mouse hand. That's interesting. So here's a dress. So it chooses a dress. You notice there's different dresses. So it chose that particular strapless dress within there. Okay. So here's a layer, a switch layer within a switch layer. So it chooses one of the outfits, and then within the outfit, it chooses one of the switches within that outfit. So that's a way that you can do that. Now, then it brings up an interesting point. At this switch level, you notice the switch level itself, not the child level, it can take out things with a minus. So in this particular case, I know if they wear a dress that I don't want a shirt or a collar or a pants leg, either the regular pants leg or the upstage pants leg, or a top shirt, none of those things are going to show up. I'm going to minus them all out. So I can do that at that level. At the dress level itself, I can do other things. So at the dress level, I'm minusing out the arms. And you might say, well, why aren't you minusing out the arms up here? I could. In my particular file, there's dresses that I minus out different arms. So I don't, in this particular case, it's always the same arm. So you could actually have both of these minuses on this level if you wanted. But in my fuller file, I have different arms that I'm picking. So I don't want to minus out all the same arms at the top layer. But notice you can minus out things either at the switch level or at the particular child level. At the child level, then, for dresses, I add legs. And once again, this is kind of a poor example. Sorry, folks, but you just got a cut down file of what I have. But you notice that I plus the downstage leg and the downstage arm, bare arm, in both cases. Again. That's kind of a redundancy. I can't add that up here, though. Notice that it would be, well, no, actually I could, because the bare arm would match up. Yeah, never mind. I could also add that at the top level, but I didn't. So anyway, so that should show you how it does that. And believe it or not, I think I'm just about done with this. All of the other things, jackets, you notice jackets is a random match. So 20% of the time, jackets will come up. When a jacket comes up, though, I always want the jacket arm to come up, okay? That makes sense to you? In other words, whenever a jacket comes up, I want a jacket arm to come up because that has to match the jacket. That's going to be on top. And when the jacket arm comes up, if I go up to the jacket arm here, this particular layer is always going to subtract out all the other arms. In this particular case, I only have to subtract out the downstage arms. I don't have to subtract out the upstage arms, because my jacket upstage arm subtracts out the upstage arms from the other upstage arms. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me. You can set up your files any way you want. I just try to do it logically. I have the downstage arms control the matching up to the upstage arms, and also control the subtraction of the downstage arms. And then I have the upstage arms themselves control the subtraction of the downstage arms. So that's just what I do. You can examine the file, see, but the point, I hope you're just at least seeing how the keywords work in all this. Here's a collar. This is only going to show up if it matches, and it's only going to match if this particular shirt shows up because it has a plus collar in it. Okay? So, what else can I explain? Oh, let me explain the colors real quick, and we'll finish that off. So, in the layers, control colors. So you'll notice like the downstage hand skin, I have it at the switch level. So for the hands, all the skin is going to be passed to this downstage hand. And notice I do a minus random again because I don't want the hands to change at that point in time. And so they're always going to be colored by that skin color. But in individual items, if I go into, let's go into a dress here. Dress is not a good choice. Let's go to one where I've got, I'm trying to find one where I've got the multiple uses of, I think short sleeve does. So let me get rid of jacket so you can see what's going on here. And jacket arm, and I got to turn this arm on so you can see it. If we go into this arm, now color doesn't match up to it, but this arm here, this particular arm layer, if I go to select the what am I trying to say? If I go to select the shape in the arm, and I'll bring up style for you to see. So notice that this shape here says top. That's the name of the shape, and then it has the word shirt. What that means is that the shirt color will always be assigned to this. And then in these little tiny, I don't know, recesses or shadow areas, I say, I have to call them a name. So this one's called right, and that one's called something left. But it could be trim or T1. It doesn't have to be anything specific. But notice I have the word shirt, but I have a greater than symbol. What that means is it's going to take the base color, and then it's going to contrast that color automatically. So in this particular case, the color's light, so it's going to go dark. If the color was dark, it's going to be light on the inside. And then this is skin, so that's assigned the skin color for that arm. You say, well, it doesn't match up now. Well, that's because it wasn't chosen. If I get to a place where it is chosen, you'll see that it does match up properly. So that's the way you can control the different colors that way, is that you can assign them to the items, and then they will automatically change. Let's see if I can get a place where, well, I've turned off that shirt. Let's turn on that shirt layer so you can see that arm. That jacket layer arm. Let's see if I can find, yeah. Okay, here's a case. See, notice where the shirt then automatically matches and the skin color matches up to that skin color. So that's how that did that automatically in that layer. Turn this on too. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show you real quick, because this is already getting way too long, is the color scheme. So in addition to, this is picking randomly among those colors that you chose, but you can also then choose color schemes. So for example, if I choose the complementary color scheme, what this will do is it'll pick whatever color you have as the default color for shapes and styles. So I'm going to pick a nice color. I'm going to pick a kind of a dark reddish color. And now when I do the mix, you'll notice that the colors are complementary to that dark red. Complementary colors, if you're not familiar with color schemes, are like, I don't know, they're 180 degrees on a color wheel. I don't want to go through color theory, but you can look it up. But it's like, here's greens and then that dark maroon, so that's a complementary color scheme. You get things based on greens and those reds in that scheme. And so if I change this to, let's say, purplish colors, you should get yellows and well, I guess that's kind of, yeah, yellows and kind of the purplish thing on that color scheme. There's all different kinds of color schemes that you can choose from. And I don't want to, you can look them up on the web if you want to find out what the different color schemes are. You can also use this control here to adjust the spread on the wheel. And once again, I would advise you to look up color schemes on the web, and you'll find out what that means as well. But I'm not going to go into it. But you can, like I say, you can pick your different colors as your base, and then get just all this kinds of colors. Also, I like the triad mixing. That's kind of an interesting color scheme. So you get things that supposedly make these outfits match up. And once again, the hair and the skin colors are held out. You notice the skin colors are not going red or green or anything like that. They're only being chosen. The lip colors are not. I actually have those matched up to them. The complementary schemes and schemes are. And lastly, but not leastly, or whatever, maybe it is leastly, is this color line thing. I actually got this idea. I don't know how I got this idea. I was watching somebody. Oh, I know. I was reading a book on animation, and somebody was talking about using coloring their lines. I never do that, but it does give a softer look to it. So this uses the colors theoretically of the actual shapes themselves, and then can be adjusted. You have this slider bar that can adjust the contrast on there, so you can go lighter or darker and get the color on. And you can turn it on or off. It's non-destructive. And what else? Oh, and I didn't tell you. Okay, you can only switch colors if you want to just switch colors. So whoops, well that didn't work. I have to fix that then. That's interesting. Why didn't that work? All right. Well, I found a bug in the program. Now that works. That's keeping the same colors, but it's not. But it's changing the different switches involved, which is fine. But there should be a routine that only switches the colors. That doesn't work. All right, well, it is keeping the same shirt. Oh, yes, I see what it's doing. The randomness is still changing, though. Notice it's keeping the same shirt, but the jacket shows up sometimes or not. And the legs, I guess, must be random somehow, too. I'm going to have to look at the legs. With the legs should be there for some reason. They're not. So I'll work on that. I'll fix on that. But that theoretically, the idea is that you could just switch your colors and leave the items on the screen alone. But I'm going to have to obviously look at the randomness factor and find out where the legs are. So I'll figure that out. Anyway, I'll work on that, and that's the kind of thing I need to get more feedback from you guys. So give me the feedback. Enjoy this. If none of this makes sense to you, then maybe this isn't the program for you. If some of it makes sense, but you can't figure out specific things, get on the forum and ask questions. Trust me, guys. There's no shame in asking a question about this because this is like a programming language. It's all of the different things involved in getting your layers to work. They don't have to be that complicated. You notice in the head it isn't that complicated, but you can get great complexity and complication. And so ask questions and we'll help you figure it out. And take care and see you around the forum.